Greg Valliere into the mix, Independent Women's Forum's Patrice Leonwuka. Patrice, Lee, one of the things that Catherine's been getting into is that step back from the storm and you realize this might be an overreaction. Do you share that view?
I do. When I look at, consumer confidence, University of Michigan last week just pegged it at the highest level in probably close to 2 decades. So I think Americans, when they're seeing, both low unemployment, wage increases, the fears about the trade war, I think they show up in some of the polling, but it's not enough to stop them from going out there and shopping or taking this Memorial weekend to take their family on a vacation and spend some money. So the markets, surely they'll be volatile, but that doesn't mean that the economy is about to dip into a recession tomorrow.
Greg, what do you think of the pressure that Democrats are under right now? Because to hear from the leadership, up until the last 24 hours, they'd been very careful with the I word impeachment. Something must have happened at the meeting with Democrats where maybe quite a few more than Nancy Pelosi thought were pushing it.
Well, Pelosi is under tremendous pressure, Neil, to amp up the volume. She has. And I've got to say, I know the markets are really weak today. I don't think it's because a recession is imminent. I think maybe it's because after yesterday, all bets are off on anything, whether it's a budget deal, a debt ceiling deal, infrastructure. I mean, the bitterness is so intense right now that we could have policy paralysis for a long time.
Now, normally Wall Street welcomes that sort of, nothing getting done. The difference, Greg, I think this time is that among the things that won't get done is maybe a debt limit agreement or a 2-year budget plan, and that 48 hours ago looked very likely. At least some of the initial sentiment coming out of Mitch McConnell's office. Now all bets are off, right?
And Neil, I think Pelosi's strategy is to try to make Trump look inept and unable to negotiate a deal. And I think she's going to make it really tough for him, and we may not get any deals for months to come.
What do you think of that, Catherine?
Yeah, it could very well be the case, but who cares? I mean, I'm not trying to be facetious here. The markets, I don't think, are going to care. And if they do, whether it be on risk of impeachment, or whether it be risk of impasse, the U.S. economy, Neil, is so fundamentally strong right now. Earnings growth. Remember earnings recession. Every single quarter we hear, this is the quarter we're going to have earnings recession. We never have it. Earnings growth was 20% last year.
So you would be buying in these dips right now, right?
I absolutely would. Inflation is at 1.5%, Neil, even with tariffs. I think that we run the risk here of the media, and this is what I'm telling my institutional clients, overestimating the impact of tariffs on U.S. GDP. Because the impact is very minimal. And if there is an impact, it's more direct on inflation.
Neil, can I just jump in here?
And even that is small.
Yeah, go ahead, Patrice.
I'll just say, let's not forget the budget, the government shutdown earlier this year. It did have an impact on the economy, and it did on GDP growth. It did have an impact on consumer spending. So when we look at the impasse between Republicans and Democrats in the White House, I think there is concern later on in this year if they're not able to come together and come to some sort of agreement here. But I agree with the panel. I mean, the economy is very strong, and so a lot of this is jittery. A lot of this is driven by the news cycle, and a lot of this is political talk to give cover to the fact that Democrats really don't seem to want to get anything done in advance of 2020.
Well, you could also flip it around and say the debt thing and the budget. I mean, that's an August event, I think, Greg Valliere. So they might be getting a little bit nervous ahead of time here. But what else could be going on?
Well, there's one other thing, Neil, we can't ignore. I was in the Midwest earlier this week. I was in Iowa yesterday. There's real anxiety in the Farm Belt. Bad weather, the tariffs. I think the farm community right now is in a recession, and they worry they could go into a depression. So yes, the overall economy is fine. I think we'll maybe grow only in the low 2s instead of the high 2s because of trade. But there are pockets like the Farm Belt that are really hurting right now.
We'll watch closely, guys. I want to thank you real quickly.
Okay.
Go ahead. No,
the trade tensions are not going to impact GDP, and in fact, government shutdown did affect GDP for that quarter, but it was more than compensated in the second quarter. So when things are temporary, economically, they do not make a long-standing impact on the economy.
But by the same token, you don't want to see it happen, right?
Exactly. If you want to get in the markets, it presents a great opportunity to enter the markets.
Okay, we shall see. All right, guys, thank you all very, very much.
Thank you.